All right, grasshoppers, it is that time of the week again. Mr. Greshner is back, thank God.
Well, the only reason why I'm back, Tom.
Why? He's Larry.
Look at the screen. Who's not here?
Yeah, I know. It does get that way, right? Because it's like now it's turned into like he thinks I don't want to talk about it behind his back, but might as well. He thinks it's really all about him all the time with everything. It's like that's what life's become.
Well, like the world revolves around him. Like it really does.
So very quickly, we'll get back to picking on Mel. Tim Peel is supposed to be on with us. He is not here. So if he does arrive, obviously we'll put him up on the screen.
Yeah. Well, with a name like Peel, like what do you expect?
Peel. There he is right here. Tim Peel. Here he is. Oh, here we go. Mr. Tim Peel. How are you, sir? Nice to meet you.
You got me, boys?
You know Ron Greshner?
Well, I don't know. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting a legend, but
he is a legend, isn't he? Yeah.
It is nice to meet you, Ron.
In my own mind, Timmy, I'm a legend.
Yeah, we all are.
I think you're more of the legend now.
So just so everybody knows, paint the picture for us. Tim had been a referee for 1,300 games you did?
Yep, a little over 1,300.
And you're doing a game, 2 years ago?
Just a year and a half ago, March 23rd of 2021.
And Nashville against Philly?
Detroit in Nashville.
So Tim was mic'd up and called a penalty early in the game. And your comment was, I just want to call an effing penalty against Nashville.
Right.
I know it wasn't it's funny because you end up getting fired over that.
First of all, Tim, I never liked refs or linesmen, okay? But I have to stick up for you on this one.
Yeah.
Who cares about Detroit and Nashville?
Well, and a little backdrop to that. So I was retiring literally 4 weeks later. That happened on March 23rd. I was retiring April 24th here in St. Louis. Going to be my last game, kind of a big deal. You bring your family and friends and everybody. It was an afternoon game, so it was perfect. We were going to have a big party after. And so it wasn't like with 4 weeks to go in a 23-year career, I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to blow this whole thing up and kind of end it the way that I did. And so it's funny because that afternoon I actually went out to a wine store, and Pete Rogers, who's the equipment manager for Nashville, he's a good friend of mine. And you guys know that how important these equipment guys are. They take care of you all year, and they don't get paid a lot of money. They do well enough now, but certainly not what the players and the refs get paid. And so I had formed a relationship with Pete over the years from back in Rochester. So I went out and bought him a nice bottle of Caymus wine and brought it down to his office and sat there with Todd Richards, the assistant coach, and Richie and I and Peter shooting the shit about kids and hockey and horses and just random stuff. So I didn't leave that dressing room going, I want to get Nashville. That was the last thing that I thought. And in the entire game, we only called 2 penalties against Nashville. And the one I called was a shitty penalty. It was kind of me justifying to Kelly Sutherland, who's a good referee. Hey, you know what? Because I saw the replay. I'm like, geez, that wasn't a good call, And the last 4 weeks of my career, I just wanted to get along with everybody. I was saying goodbye to everybody. And I wanted to keep everybody happy. And so the game ends. Nashville wins it. Stephen Wacom, the vice president of the league, director of officiating, he calls right away. He goes, we got a problem. I go, what's that? And he tells me what was said. So I immediately have a shower. I go down and see Poyle and John Hines and said, obviously that wasn't my intent to get you guys. Like I've said on lots of shows, you don't survive for 23 years if you've got a reputation of wanting to get a player or a team or whatever. So anyway, I don't know.
So you were more being a smart ass, just joking around. That
Exactly. It wasn't like I wanted to get a penalty. I called the penalty and I realized it was a shitty call, and it was my defense mechanism and my pride, because we never liked calling shitty penalties. Right. And so after the game, I'm on the phone with the league, and it's 50-50 whether I'm going to get fired or not. And so the next
Were
morning,
you, sorry to interrupt you, Tim. Were you sitting there saying, "Really fired over this"?
well, I knew, when this happened, Millbury called me and a few other people called me, and they're like, "Welcome to the cancel club. You say the wrong thing now, and people want to jump on it." And
But you didn't do what the what's his name? Would you just mention there?
Millbury.
Millbury. He did a whole series of stuff that was ridiculous. So
Yeah.
You didn't have that reputation. You made one kind of smart.
No, I made one comment, and so, but I knew a big part of it, Tom, was for example, Fox Sports now is Bally Sports, and it was the betting aspect that was brought into our game. And it was, they needed to show their betting partners that, hey, our referees don't ref like this. They don't manage the game. They don't manage the game. And everybody knows, maybe manage isn't the right word, but we do not call, like everyone, I get a kick when people go, well, just call the game by the rule book. Really? That's not what the players want. That's not what the coaches want. That's not what the GMs want. That's not what the owners want. They don't want a little trip in the neutral zone that has no bearing on the play, that, Zibanejad gets tripped up and Panarin picks the puck up and goes in. They don't want every little thing called. If you called that in every sport, the sport would suck.
Yeah.
And
well, you call them way more now than it was when Ron and I played. I mean, that right?
Big time, So anyway, so they called me the next morning, and Stephen Walkham, director of officiating, called. He goes, "You've worked your last." This was 7:30 in the morning. I was at the airport. He goes, "You've worked your last game in the National Hockey League," and I said, "Okay." I said, "I got to let you go," and I hung up. I didn't grovel. You can ask him. I didn't say another word because I knew the decision was made. And so
you're leaving in 4 weeks anyway. So
I'm leaving in 4 weeks anyway, but it wasn't the way that I wanted to leave. You and I were talking on the phone. I've got young kids. Bronson's 10 and Brielle's 8. And they were excited to come to my last game. Yeah. Tom Stillman, the owner of the Blues, had made tickets up. Tim Peel's final game. It was going to be a big deal. Like, it was going to be a lot of fun. And so I fly home, and obviously the phone calls I'm getting there, it's my phone is just blowing up. And but I always love telling the story. David Clarkson, who played in the NHL, played for Jersey, your old team, and no, you're a Ranger. Sorry,
he's a Toronto.
Looks like a Devil, though. He looks
like
a Devil
guy. Yeah, and he hated referees. I mean, he hated them. Like
really.
Him and I would get into more FU contests. It was brutal. And he just didn't like officials. And I don't have a problem with that. I didn't like referees when I played either. So, and so when I answered the phone, it was a Columbus number, and I didn't have his name. So just the number came across, and he goes, "Hey, Timmy, it's David Clarkson." And for a split second, I thought he was going to say, "Hey, it looks good on you." and he said, "I just got off the ice. I'm retired, obviously, but I live in Denver. I was playing with some ex-players today, and we were just in the dressing room talking about what happened and we think that it's wrong, what they did to you and how it all went down. And I just want to let you know, even though I knew I was hard on refs, whenever I had you, I knew I had one of the best refs. I knew I had one of the fairest refs, and my teammates knew that too. So it meant a lot. It was easy for my friends to reach out and say, "Oh, I'm sorry," but all the hockey people, from Gretzky to Lou Lamoriello to Brian Burke to on and on and on, the hockey people that reached out, it didn't make it any easier, but it was nice. It was nice. And so that morning, I live in St. Louis, and how you guys know how big the alumni is here in St. Louis, and I've been a big part of it over the years. And Kelly Chase and I are good buddies, and Chaser, we're talking in the morning, and he calls me about 1:30, and he goes, "I got some bad news to tell you." And I said, "You got some effing bad news to tell me? Are you kidding me? Have you seen the day that I'm having?" Right. He goes, "Bobby Plager just got killed in a car accident." I was like, "Oh, yeah," because everyone loved Bobby, Right. So my kids come home from school, and I get down on one knee, and I'm telling them that I'm done, and then I'm telling them Bobby died, and I'm crying. Partly because of what happened to me, but a big part of because of what happened to Bobby, because Bobby loved my kids and they loved him. So But it was a rough day, but I survived it. And I remember talking to Quenville. I was driving my daughter out to go horseback riding, and she's funny. She's 8 years old, and I'm driving her out. And now Tisha and I haven't told her that I've been fired. And just said, "Hey, I'm early retired," And I'm driving out, and she goes, "Dad," she goes, "Can I ask you a favor?" And I said, "Yeah, baby girl, what's that?" And she goes, "Can you tell people that you weren't fired by the NHL?" And I'm like, oh, like take the knife out of my heart, right?
Yeah.
But I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason, and it was just another. I told you on the phone, I was left in an orphanage. I grew up in a trailer park. I grew up in New Brunswick. I came from nothing, and I had a lot of ups and downs in my career. And I wasn't going to let a 2-second audio clip define work in the Olympics and Stanley Cup playoffs and outdoor games and all-star games. And I wasn't going to let that define me. And that's why Tisha said to me, my wife, she goes, "You're handling this really good." I said, my background and how I was brought up and that. And I said, I have a big example to set for Bronson and Brielle. And I told this story at my ref school. I have a ref school here in St. Louis every June. And I was telling the kids the story because that happened in April, and then June was the ref camp 2 years ago. And I said, life's pretty good right now. These kids are 14 to 21. I said, you're in high school. Mom and dad got you a car. You probably got a girlfriend. Things are pretty good. I go, but guess what? You're going to get kicked in the teeth a lot over your life. And it's how you come out on the other end of it. Because I remember I had this party at my house about 2 or 3 weeks after it happened. And there's about 20 people over. And I could tell everybody was they didn't know what to say. And finally I go, "Hey, I'm good. Everything's fine. Don't worry about me." And one of my buddies, he goes, "Timmy, we're your friend because of who you are. We're not your friend because you're an NHL ref. You could have been a garbage man. We don't care." So at the end of the day, no one really gives a shit. They just care about what kind of person you are.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's right. The advantage you had was you got through so much stuff already. So go ahead, Gresh.
Yeah, but don't forget, the tickets you got him for hockey games were a lot better than if you had been a garbage man.
Yes, that's true. Yes. All-Star game in St. Louis, Winter Classic. You're right.
No, and I got to. This might be a stupid question, but what about your pension? Anything happened to your pension?
No. So Bill Daly, I've talked to Bill probably. I haven't talked to Gary, but I've talked to Bill probably 3 or 4 times since this happened. Wished me happy birthday a couple months ago by text. I've got a great relationship with Bill. Bill's a really good man, and so's Gary. Yeah. But Bill really cares about people, and he told our president of the union and our lawyers at the time, he goes, "Tim and his family will not be hurt financially through this. They continue to pay me till the end of the year, which I was supposed to get paid to. Pension, not the benefits, nothing changed." And they could have. You know what? Maybe we would have had a battle. I don't know. But at least we didn't have to go down that path, and it was very good of them and everything.
So the reason Tim is here is because of this William Conrad Tidiak here, whatever his name is.
Oh yeah, I know Bill. That's Bill.
Right. And the only reason that he likes me is because I played in the NHL. Well, it's debatable if you watch me play whether that was playing or not, right?
Well, what's his name? William Kontinak?
Yeah,
he needs glasses too, though.
I think he made that name up. There's no way that's a real name.
He's a Jersey guy. I sent him one of my jerseys. He loves it.
Well, he made it sound like you guys are like best friends. Oh God, that's funny. So, what'd you settle in St. Louis? Is your wife from there?
No. So I was living in Toronto. Got hired in '98 and was living in Toronto for 2 years with the NHL. Hated the Canadian taxes and asked to move to the U.S. And Don Koharski, who refereed you guys, was living in St. Louis. He had moved from Toronto as well. And he said to me, he goes, "Hey, Timmy, the people here are phenomenal. The alumni is phenomenal." And so I moved in 2001 and eventually met my wife here, but it was the best thing I ever did. I love it here.
Yeah. Good. We got a lot of different wives. Chris and I got a lot of wives.
We have our own tennis team.
A lot of different cities.
Is Bruce Affleck still involved with the St. Louis?
Yeah, I see Bruce a lot. Yeah, Bruce is involved, and all the guys here, Bruce and Larry. You remember Larry Pavey and Mike?
Yeah, that's right. He's played here.
I played with Larry.
Yeah, he's here.
Yeah, all
It's
those
funny.
guys.
It's funny how I don't know if fans realize the kind of the relationship you get with referees and the players too. Especially you've been around a long time playing and you get to know each other. Kerry Fraser and I was traded out to LA. It was a face-off. We're playing against Edmonton in LA. It's after the Gretzky trade. So Gretzky's on the ice and Yeri Curry and Mark Messier. It's face-off to center ice to start of the game. And Gretzky wins the face-off, comes back to me. And, I've just played, thousands of times. I pass it to my partner. I pass it to the winger, whatever. For whatever reason, the puck just explodes off my stick, my cement hands. And Yeri Curry comes in, picks up the puck, goes in and scores on a breakaway. So now I'm just totally embarrassed. I can't wait for the play to get started again because I figured everybody in the building's looking at me like, what the hell are you doing? And Kerry Fraser stands there at center ice and holds the puck for a few seconds. And he's standing there laughing at me. I'm yelling at him, drop the effing puck. It's just kind of funny. You get that little stuff.
Yeah, no, for sure. The good guys, good refs had that. Coho and Frazier and McCreary and Mick Magoo. Mick Magoo would have refed you guys. Like those guys were characters. They were part of the game and they had their names in the back. And the good refs had personality. Like now we have, like I felt like I tried to have fun with the players, and now you've got new generation. But Wes McCauley's really good at that right now. So
he's great. He's fantastic when he makes those calls, and he's good.
He's the best.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of videos of him where he's been mic'd up too, and some of the conversations he has.
It's classic. Yeah.
So what are you doing now? Then you're totally retired, but you got the 2 kids you're taking care of and doing some speaking.
And actually, a guy hired me that you guys would have played against, or maybe with, but I don't think you played with him. Do you remember Wayne Presley?
Yeah.
Elvis.
Chicago. Did he play in Chicago?
Yeah. Chicago, San Jose, a little bit in Toronto. So Darren Pang and I are good friends and play a lot of golf here. Well, him and Panger were rookies together in Chicago. And so I met Elvis 15 years ago, and he runs this staffing company, an IT staffing company, and he hired me on to run the office here in St. Louis probably about 10 months ago. So I talk to Elvis every day, a couple times a day, and he lives up in Michigan. And so, doing that and doing a little media stuff and just keeping busy at home.
Oh, I have a really important question that probably nobody's ever asked you this question. How small are Panger's golf clubs?
Well, let's just say he could borrow Bronson, my 10-year-old. He could borrow his golf club.
It's probably like those little plastic ones, right? You get it like Toys R Us.
A little toy set, right? But I'm telling you, if you ever get a chance, Ron, to play golf with Panger, so I'm going to go visit him. He's got a summer place up in Duck Lake up in Michigan, about 40 minutes outside of Detroit. And I go up every year and play with him and Elvis and Kosher. Joey's up there on the same lake. And Panger is the funnest guy to ever play golf with.
I love him. I love him on TV. I love when he does when he's doing the TV, when doing the games and that. He is really good. Like he's
and what you see there is the same personality he is off air. Yeah. It's just upbeat. He's happy. It's just like a great guy. He's a great human being. I love him.
Right. Yeah. So coaches have got to try to play mind games with you, right? Like always trying to get on you for every call, like set it up for the next one ever. Who's like one of the worst, or maybe it's best coaches that?
Well, now not so much, right? Like it's unfortunate. I remember a few years ago, Nick Foligno was playing for Torts in Columbus, and I always had a soft spot for Nick because Mike, his dad, was coaching Hershey when I was coming up. And you guys know Mike, just a tremendous guy, phenomenal person. And I screwed up a call one game and I called a double minor and I had to take it back. And Mike's like, Timmy, don't worry about it. We're all in here in the minors trying to learn and get up. All of us try to make it to the NHL. And I just always I always respected him a lot. And then Mike's wife, unfortunately, she died of cancer years ago. And so when Marcus and Nick came in the league, I always had a soft spot for them. And one night in Montreal, I called a penalty against Nick late, and he goes, "You don't effing respect me," and which was the complete opposite. I respected Nick a lot. Like he was the leader of that team in Columbus, and the guy would fight and score and do everything. So next time I was in Columbus, about a month later, I went and knocked on the door before the game, and Torts and Bradshaw were there, and I know Shazi from St. Louis. And I said, Shazi, can I speak to Nick? And he goes, yeah. So he brings me in the coach's room. They go and get Nick, and he comes in, and I go, you said something the other day in Montreal. I said, it really bothered me. He said, I didn't respect you. I said, that couldn't be further from the truth. And I, told, he knew that my relationship with his dad and all that. And anyway, we hugged it out, and we were great then the rest of our career together. And he leaves, and Torts goes, we need more of that. We need more of that in our league where guys can, like when you guys played, you didn't charter out after the game. You went to the bar, whether it was the Bar Melody in LA or the hotel bar somewhere, and 70% of the time you probably ran into our guys, and that's how you developed a relationship with them. And it wasn't a bad thing; it was a good thing. And the few guys that I've got to hang out with over the years, Del Zotto and Boyle and even Sid a couple times, and different players, we were able to have a beer. It only enhanced our relationship on the ice because they realized this guy isn't an asshole. Because we're the only guys that have ever told them no. They've been coddled since junior. Their coaches, their agents, their advisors, their parents, everybody has told them they're the best in the world. The only people that have ever said no to them are the guys wearing the black and white stripes. Yeah. So their perception is that we're a bunch of jerks.
And especially if you're going to continue to call the penalties, like even if you're friends with the guy, you call the penalties, and they know, okay, there's a certain line there. He's a good guy. But,
Right. So it's a good thing. It's a thing that unfortunately we don't have as much of anymore. But, guys like Pat Quinn, man, he was intimidating. You guys knew the big Irishman. Like, he was intimidating on the bench. And for me as a young guy, Scotty Bowman, these guys. But you don't have as much of that anymore.
All right. So just so everybody knows, we got Tim Peel here, the former NHL referee, NHL'd over 1,300 games, was about to retire. Unfortunately, made a kind of a smart-ass comment. I didn't realize he was smart-ass when you said that. I really thought that you were trying to get them for some reason.
No.
So it was on an open mic on TV. And you brought up a good point. I think the league probably, that kind of stuff, I think everybody in the game knows that kind of stuff is said all the time. You brought up the gambling issue, which I think I did not think of that, where it makes sense, right? The league really had to show their partners that they were, the referees didn't act that way. So,
but you know what, Tom, because it doesn't matter. I've never asked Bill Daly this. If I had 2 or 3 years left in my career, I don't think what would have happened. I think maybe they suspend me for a couple of weeks. But
I think it's easy, yeah.
It was easy. I got 4 weeks left. Hey, we got 10 games left. You're going to ride off into the sunset, and that's it. So
it does. It sends a big message to the gambling partners that listen. I'm taking a stand on this. You're right. I never thought of that at all.
So you became the scapegoat for the whole thing, then.
Yeah, and I never like to say that I was the scapegoat because unfortunately, in the world we live in now, everybody wants to blame everybody else for everything, but I'm the one that said it. I'm accountable for my own actions, and all I know is there's been a lot worse said on the ice over the last 75 years than what I said. But it was the wrong time and the wrong era, the wrong year we're living in. So,
and that was like Tom's very first game, right? Like, not many guys score a goal on their first shot, like him, Mario, a few guys, right? But the problem was for Tom, it was in our net.
So,
you're kidding me.
Rep in Boston, John Davidson's our goaltender. So, and you know how it is, right? You dream your whole life of getting the NHL, go through training camp, at a good camp. I'm now with the team at the start of the regular season. First period in Boston, you're in Boston, first of all. It's Terry O'Reilly and Wayne Cashman and Stan Jonathan, all these guys. I'm just like, part of me is like, I can't believe I'm really in the NHL. And the other part is just, I'm like, what was going on here? So I go to shoot the puck around the back of the net and just panic and shoot off the back of JD's leg into the net.
Oh, that's hilarious. I might actually have a drink with JD this week. Next week, I'm going to Columbus to play some golf actually with Kerry Frazier and a bunch of guys. And I was talking to JD a couple of weeks ago because he's a member at this club we're going to. So if I see him, I'll have to ask him that story.
Yeah. He's a good man too. He's done well in the game.
But you know what? Like, I'm 56, so growing up in New Brunswick, growing up in the 70s, all those guys you just mentioned, man, I love that hockey. Like, I'm so glad I was growing up as a kid watching that kind of hockey. Jonathan and O'Reilly and I don't know if did you mention John Wensink in that?
Yeah, I did not mention him, but he was there. Yeah.
Okay, so Wensink lives here in St. Louis. They call him Wire.
Yeah.
And you shake his hand, and it's like two hands. And I'm like, these guys, man, you guys were men that played back then.
Like, yeah, it was a different game, right? It's all different. That you try to compare the game today to the game back then, it's possible. Rules are different, equipment's different, training's different.
Yeah,
beer was a food group back then too.
I don't think he really had rules back then.
No, they were prison rules, is what they were. But you know what it was? Kowarski, hey, Jersey, here's your one power play. Rangers, here's your one power play. Play on, boys. But that's what the teams expected, and that's what the coaches and the GMs expected.
Yeah, like the rule book said we weren't supposed to be hooking and holding, but we hooked and hold. And just
all the time, right? Yeah. It wasn't like we just put these rules in the rule book in the last 10 years. They were always in that rule book, but it was accepted.
Did you ever referee when it was just one referee?
No, I came up in 98, 99, and we had just switched to the two ref system.
Yeah, that was wrong.
Well,
no, you know why? You know why that was wrong? Because you couldn't get away with much shit then.
Well, no, exactly. But the problem is that with the speed of the game now and taking out the red line, it was impossible for one ref to keep up with the play.
It was impossible back then because
right.
Nothing against the referee, but you'd look up, the puck would be going down, like say it was in your end, you pass it out, guy hit you from behind, puck's going down, the referee's not going to look hard. He'd look back once in a while. If was carrying, like if Lafleur was carrying the puck, he'd look back because Lafleur kept it for a long time, right?
Right.
But if you're playing in Philly, he didn't look back that much. Guys would be hacking each other in the back and the legs. It was like if you didn't want to take that shit back then, you were gone. Like you couldn't play.
Here's one that I want to. It's more like a discussion. Tim, get your opinion on it. So we're out like teaching kids too in the game. So if somebody does something to you, especially in an NHL arena, so the crowd now makes a big roar, but the referee doesn't see the call, so he doesn't call it. He doesn't see the infraction, so he doesn't call it. But then when the next guy retaliates, now everybody in the building, including the referee, is looking there. So the referee's kind of forced to call that penalty note. But don't you say to yourself at some points, well, something had to have happened before that to cause this player to retaliate? Does that go through your mind, or that you can't do that because you can only call what you call?
It goes through your mind. No, for sure. It's a great question. It definitely goes through your mind, but unfortunately, if you didn't see it, you can't call it. And, there's 34 refs that work in the league, and they take the top 20 to the playoffs. And the guys that don't work are generally guys that the league, some of them are new and they're just not ready, but other guys have been in the league for a long time, but the league feels that they can't trust them. They can't put them into a playoff game because the worst thing that the league wants is for you to make a soft call that is a 1 minute penalty, or it's really not a penalty, and then the other team scores in the power play. That's when the shit hits the fan, and the coaches and the GMs of the other team really get upset.
But isn't that just part of the coaching, the refereeing game? I mean, you can't, like, people always say, well, why did you miss that call? But if you look back in time, everybody's always complained about refereeing, right? It's just never going to be perfect.
It's never changed, and I don't know how it's going to change, because you're absolutely right. Like, especially now, you miss a call and it's on social media, and 2 seconds later, you've got 15. I remember when I came in the league in '98, Dan Marawelli and Frazier and these guys, they would go to LA and work games, and they weren't even televised down there at the time. And if an incident happened in that game, that player safety, back then it wasn't player safety, but whoever, it was Brian Lewis or whoever had to step in and suspend somebody, John McCauley or whoever, they had to get the VHS tape, send it to Toronto for them to look at.
Right.
So that was just the way that it was back then. And now, if you make a mistake, it's on Sports Center. It's just a different world. And I've got some buddies that Ronnie Culpa is a Major League Baseball umpire. He told me a month ago, he goes, they're coming in with an electronic strike zone. I go, are you kidding me? He goes, they're going to do it. And sure enough, I saw a couple days ago, they said that they're going to do it. And I called him up. I said, so what are you going to do? And he goes, I'm just going to stand by the plate. And I'm not sure exactly what they're going to do, but now, for years, you know, Joe West is that famous umpire, and there's a bunch of other famous guys that just like in hockey, the NHL players knew, okay, Dan Maruelli, and I'm not saying that he did, but Dan Maruelli calls more penalties a game than Mick Magoo or Don Koharski. All the teams back then knew what the style of refereeing that person had, and now, and I do understand it. Now they're trying to make it so that everybody's the same, and that's tough to do, but that's what they're striving to do.
Yeah, everything changed. Because you go back, like I remember in 04, 05, we had the lockout, and then they came in with all those new rules, the hooking and holding, right? So it all changed. But when they first implemented those rules, everybody's like, and I was one of them, I was going, oh, this is just never going to work. You know,
this isn't going to work, or it's not going to last, right?
Yeah.
I know. And you know what? Listen, I don't know about you guys, but I'm watching the first round of the playoffs this year, and I go, this is good hockey.
Oh, playoffs are unbelievable. Oh, wow.
This is good hockey. It's fast. It's still physical. We don't have the fighting, but there's still some big hits, and we don't have that much hitting, you know, in the regular season. But as you guys know, there's guys that didn't throw a check for 82 games in the regular season that are now checking in the playoffs. Yeah. But I'm telling you, I didn't miss a game every round. I was like, it was the hockey's unbelievable.
I think the first round, those 2 weeks is the best 2 weeks of sports in the world.
I agree. I couldn't agree more with you. I love it.
There was only one thing. My mom last year, she died. She was 90, almost 99 years old, right? And she was very upset because she said to me, she goes, why can't they have 2 50-game schedules a year for 2 Stanley Cups a year and play all year round? That was her whole life.
That's how much she enjoyed it, right?
Yeah. Oh, she loved it.
I hate to admit this, but this Ira Matthews is a total pain in the rear end, but he's asking everybody a relatively good question. Do you know going to the game knowing that Reeves or Tom Wilson, and those are the two really guys that are left around the league? But even if it's just some, like, especially in a playoff series, right? So two guys have had a battle the night before, and you kind of, do you go talk to them before the next game, or just you're watching out for it?
No, you don't. But we do our homework. You know, and people say, you know, when do you start? Well, really, we start at breakfast that morning. You have breakfast with the crew. You talk about who's playing that night. You may talk about it in the gym at 12 o'clock or when you go to lunch. But definitely when you get in the dressing room before the game, you know, you go through the lineup and you're like, you know, we got this guy, this guy, this. And it's not going in there with a preconceived notion, but you've got to do your homework. You just can't go on the ice and go, oh, shit, I didn't know Tom Wilson was playing tonight. Like, you have to be prepared. And, you know, I love Tom, but when he's on the ice, you better stick with the hit. Right. You know, there's some guys that hit and you know he's going to hit him and you can turn away at the last minute to follow the play. But when Tom Wilson's hitting somebody and the guy passes the puck, you better stay with that hit because it may be late, it may be high, it may be, you know, so when those guys are on the ice, your antennas just go up and you've got to be prepared. That's our job. That's our role.
So when Brad Marchand licks somebody, were you on the ice at any times where he licked somebody?
No, I wasn't. I love Brad. Like, I always got along with him. I'm a New Brunswick boy. He's from Nova Scotia. And a lot of guys didn't like him, but I always liked Marshy because I tell people, I go, all you haters out there, you would just love to have him on your team.
Oh, absolutely.
I do. I love that kid. I think
but he's a beauty, and I don't know where he comes up with some of that stuff. And
maybe one time, I wouldn't even do it one time, but he did it several times. I'm like, what do you think? Because I'm with you. When I see him getting interviewed to watch him play, he's a fantastic player.
I know.
Like, where do you come up with this? We lick somebody.
I enjoy watching him because you never know.
And it's kind of a little bit of it is taken away from how good of a player he is too, which is unfortunate. So, but I love his nastiness, and he's not afraid to take a suspension. And you know what? I'm sorry, but it's an emotional game. I remember Brian Boyle was yelling at me one night, and he came off the ice or off the bench and apologized. And I said, Brian, I said, don't you ever apologize. I said, if you cross the line, then I said, you know, we're going to have to talk. But I said, this is an emotional game. I'm emotional. You're emotional. Like hockey's an emotional game. It's okay.
That's a good point, right? So players that are good guys, well, most of the players are in the National Hockey League.
They are.
But they get wound up on the ice, and they may say something to you. So you're able to separate that and say, listen, I know he's just pissed off right now.
100%. A guy, it might have been Kyprios or somebody the other day told me a story. And they said that they were interviewing Sid, and they asked Sid, they go, what's your biggest regret, since you came in the NHL? And when they told me, I wasn't surprised because I know what a great guy Sid is. But he goes, how I treated the officials when I first came in the league.
Huh?
And I wasn't surprised by his response, because you got to understand, he was 18 years old. And he had just come from the Quebec Major Junior League, where he ran the refs. He ran the league. He probably ran the commissioner, like he was Sidney Crosby. So he came in the NHL thinking he was going to run Dan Maruelli and Kerry Fraser, and he quickly found out, sorry, that's not how it works up here. And so, but I love that response from him, because it just goes to show what a good guy he is.
And that is true, right? When you first come up to, I obviously was a star player, but you do learn things along the way, and you get more comfortable as a player. And
yeah.
Tom, you were in practice. You were
fantastic.
You were the top 5 goal scorers on our team.
So of course Gresh. So Gresh, we would have, like a lot of guys do, after practice, you stay on the ice and you play keep away, and it's just, we're having fun, joking around, being smart asses and everything. But Gresh was the worst to play with, because he just could not get the puck off, and he'd be laughing and everything.
So you guys played together in the Rangers, right?
We were together for 7 years, sir. Yep. And then I got traded up to Los Angeles. Yep.
Who was coaching the Rangers back then?
Everybody.
Everybody.
We started off with Freddie Sherrill, had Craig Patrick, Herb Brooks, Ted Sater.
You had some big names.
Yeah. Tom Webster for a little bit, and then I got
Tom Webster. Yep.
Esposito.
That's right. Yes. We had Phil on a show, and Phil was great to both Gresh and I. As I came up as a young player, he was just retiring. He treated me great, but he also traded me out to Los Angeles. So we had him on a show, and he asked me before the show, he says, can I swear on the show? I said, well, Phil, we're trying to keep this a little bit PG. He must have dropped the F-bomb 300 times.
I just talked to him. I talked to him yesterday.
Oh, I love listening to him on the radio if I'm driving around. I'm listening to a Tampa game. He's just hilarious, because he's so old school, right? Like, it's like,
I was busting him yesterday. I go, Phil, I was listening to you when you were doing the games, and you were saying, pass the puck.
Yeah.
You're supposed to be talking about the play. He goes, I know. He says, I get involved. He says, I want to be out there. Like he's 80 years old now, whatever. But he was. I became friends with him in '75 when he got traded, and we've been good friends since that day. And
he was the first GM of Tampa, correct?
Yes, owner GM. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's when he pulled the Manon Riom.
Yeah. So he actually started that team. He went and got the financing for it and everything, and put the
well, that's why he's got a job for life there, because he was instrumental in bringing getting that franchise going.
The owner of that team loves him.
Vinnick's a good man. We have some good owners in this league. That Jeff Vinnick, they have this thing called Hero Night, and every home game, they donate $50 to a hero in the community. And not to them, but to a charity. And during the lockout, our last lockout, Vinnick continued to do that. That's the type of owner he is down there. He's phenomenal.
Yeah, we do have some good owners who have done a lot in the communities now. In Dallas, building rinks around the area and everything. Fortunately, you get the Phoenix situation gets straightened out too. That's a mess. But
I know, for Tom and myself. Mr. Dolan owns the Rangers. He's he's really, 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 really good to the alumni.
Is he?
Oh God.
Well, they're good. That organization is excellent in the community.
We do a lot of stuff with them. They take financially. They pay us a lot more than anybody else is getting. I can tell you that right now.
That's good. That's good to hear. Because
they're good though. Like they have good people run the alumni. and they're it's a pleasure working with them all.
Yeah.
Like it's you're kind of like that, once a Ranger, always a Ranger, whatever
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
It's there, and and it's the funny thing. Me and Tom live across the street from each other and don't see each other.
We do. We live about 100 feet from each other.
No,
That's
it's,
funny.
like, you can't be over somebody's house every day. Like, it'd be like, okay, I'm kind of tired of this guy now.
Right.
Get lost,
Yeah.
So, I mean,
I know. I'm sure everybody saw this today. Brad Marsh.
Terrible.
The other day.
Awful.
53 years old, for God's sake.
Awful.
Do we know? I shouldn't know if it's cold or not.
No, I don't know. We don't know why. I asked a couple people yesterday, and nobody seems to know.
Yeah.
53.
You had a tough stretch around here. Roger Bear, Emil Francis, Clark Gillies,
Right.
Mike Bossy.
I know. That was a rough year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Hot fan.
Yeah, that's right, John Poffin. Yeah.
Yeah. That was within weeks that Gillies and Bossy died, right?
Yeah,
And,
LaFleur was right in that one, too. He was
Yeah.
in that one, too.
That's right. I forgot. And we'd gotten pretty close to Clark Gillies over time. So we've done the show for a couple of years now, over a couple of years. And Clark was watching the show, and Gresh knew him better than I did. He contacted me on Facebook here, and he was just like a little kid. He says, "Can I come on the show? Can I come on the show?"
no way.
And when you're playing against a guy like Clark Gillies, he's like, I always joke around. We got mad. He had this one eyebrow going across the top of his head. He looked like a monster out there. But had him on the show. He was a fantastic guy, very complimentary. He did a lot in the community.
Yeah.
We lost the playoff. We lost the playoff series to them in overtime. Kenny Morrow scored a big goal in overtime. They went on to play in the finals again. That would have been the last time the time they didn't win the Stanley Cup against Edmonton. And he
Right.
told us, he said that if we had won, he thought we could have won the cup that year.
Really.
So that was, and it wasn't like we were asking these questions. He was really great guy. So it was kind of great to get to know him. But yeah,
He was tough too, wasn't he?
Oh.
Like, man.
And just like he was smart, tough too, right? It was like, knowing when to do it. He could intimidate you just by looking at you. He was funny. But I tell the story that Carol Vadnais was coaching, and he'd always taken care of me. And he, if he told me to do something out there, I was just going to do it because he just was that great to me. And he told me one game against the Islanders, he goes, "Tommy, when you go to the front of the net with that effing Gillies, you go punch him in the chest." So I punched Clarky in the chest, and he looks at me with that one eye. And he goes, "What the hell do you want?"
Right.
I was like, over Vad on the bench. I said, "Okay, what do you want me to do now?"
Yeah, you guys would have had some good rivalries against the Islanders back then. Boss.
Islanders, Devils, Philly. Yeah.
It was great hockey. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, Timmy, I'm glad you came on. Again, it is true. Bill Contreras has always spoken highly of you, but he did. I do need to mention he did say you're best friends, like he was practically moving in with you. It seems like you barely know him, but so it's good to see you. Maybe we have you on again. You got a great personality, and we'll have some fun and do more stuff.
Yeah, I appreciate it, boys.
Brother, well, let's go.
Turns out well for you.
Thank you. And yeah, you know what? I love talking. I always was a guy. I love the history of the game. Because of that era, I grew up in the 70s, when I was, 72, 73, 77, I was 6, 8, 10 years old. Those are like my son's 10. Those are the years that you really find, your passion and what you love for the game. And growing up in that era, I just love that era. And I love, like, when I would get together with Koharski and Frazier and these guys. I'd always get them to tell me stories about back then. And, I'm sure it was difficult for them because they used to ref you guys, and then they were around so long that then the game had changed so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, anytime I love talking about the history of our game, the old guys that made this game the great game that it is. So
yeah, I used to laugh, not laugh at them, but I'd laugh because you'd see them out there. A brawl would break out, and they'd be going like,
yeah, right.
Right.
Who's
doing what? Because there's no way they could remember what was going on.
Well, it's funny because
it's been nuts.
Yeah, it's funny because I'll click on a website and I'll go brawl in Philly last night, and I'll look and it's 5-on-5, and there maybe was one fight, but but everyone still got their gloves on.
Yeah, I
I'm
know.
like, you guys have no idea what it was like. That
But
is
it's true, when you do see a brawl, like a live brawl, and they still got the gloves on, and you're thinking,
right.
Yeah.
Because
Well-
you guys know what it was like when you went to
Yeah.
when you went into Philly and played in that old Spectrum, right? Like
you better
We're
drop
like-
your gloves.
you were shitting your pants going, well, okay. I told this story the other, or not, it's really not a story, but how much I grew up a Toronto Maple Leaf fan, and Borje Salming.
Yeah.
But think about the
Oh.
abuse that guy took as the first Swede or one of the first Swedes over here. And he'd go into Philly and they literally would try to kill him every
yeah.
night.
And he didn't back down either.
No, he didn't back down.
Well,
It's like, I love guys like that. It's like, man, you were, phew,
My,
it's hard
my,
not to like him. You know?
my first year was 74. I'll tell you what, when you left Philly, you knew that you were in a game. You had scars on your body that you didn't even know you had places.
Well, yeah, and because think about this. This is what people forget is that your equipment, your shoulder pads were the size of a teacup.
Yeah.
You had nothing really around here, and you're getting hit with a 2x4 because the sticks were right. It's like you guys had to have been black and blue and just beat up.
In the old Spectrum, you'd shoot the puck. They'd shoot the puck on the boards and it would hit the boards, and the boards were dead in our end twice.
Yeah.
And the puck would hit and fall down into the snow.
Yeah,
You're in there trying to dig it out.
You gotta go get it.
They're running
coming, right?
Timmy, we played the outdoor alumni game against Philadelphia like 6-7 years ago. Gresh, was that long ago?
10.
10 years ago now. Wow. And we're all getting the place is packed, 45,000 people
Sure.
outside. And we're sitting in the locker room, we're laughing. They're going, the fans aren't going to yell at us today, are they? Like, they're not going to yell the stuff we did before. We walk out to go to the ice. Layla, you suck, your dog suck.
Well,
It was 2012.
Is that what it was?
It was funny because there's this guy in Philly. They call him the sign guy, and he's behind the visitor's net. And every game I'd come out, he'd hold up a sign, "Ref, you suck," and blah blah blah. So one night, I like to go out and have a few pops after the game, and we're at Chicky and Pete's after the game, and we're pounding the beers. And he comes up to me, he goes, "Hey Tim, I'm the sign guy," and we get talking, and we drink all night until 2 a.m. And my hand to my kids every time, and our guys would get the biggest kick out of it. I'd come out and he'd hold up a sign, "Welcome back." And so they were like brutal fans. But if you got to know, like one of my last stops, like as a ref, you get to pick your last 3 or 4 games. And this is where I was going to go. I was going to go Montreal, Madison Square Garden, Philly, and then my last game in St. Louis, because I loved working in Philly and I loved working in Madison Square Garden. But as crazy as those fans were, I loved working there, right? I loved coming out there and you make a call and they are just all over you because that just made the game fun. I loved it,
So you probably don't want to mention a name, but was there a player that you just didn't like?
I'm sure there were a few. Nobody that really like sticks out, not really. I tried to get along with most of them. I know Bill McCreary, who you guys know was one of the best refs ever in the NHL. He goes, "You can't come into this league trying to be liked by everybody, but all you want is to be respected by everybody." And so there were some guys that I'm sure I didn't like and they didn't like me, but hopefully, like David Clarkson, that story, at least we had a mutual respect for each other. So
that's the thing too. I always remember, I don't really think there's a referee I didn't like. I maybe didn't like him at the time because of some call or the way he ref the game, but yeah, I can't remember ever holding a grudge later on and not liking him. Yeah.
No, exactly.
I used to like it in Philly because you could skate around and they'd be like throwing crap at you, whatever, in the warm-ups. So the game, when the warm-ups are getting close to the end, a lot of snow on the ice, you used to go with your stick and fired into the crowd.
The glass was this high, right?
Yeah. The next time you go around, there's a beer's coming over at you. It's like crazy.
Well, Tim, thank you very much again for coming on.
Boys, let's do it again sometime.
Good luck to you.
Thanks, Ian. Take care.
Okay, bye.
That was good.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting, huh?
Yeah, he's good personality. He's good.
Yeah, no.
I'm glad to see. You know what? Would you have thought you're more of a gambler than I am? Would you have thought about the gambling issue when they ultimately fired him?
I'm not at all. But they, sometimes you need somebody to
Yeah, I can see it from the league's point of view, right? That they feel like, and it's an easy thing to do because he was going to retire in 4 weeks anyway. So
Yeah, but sometimes you need that person to take that fall, and he did.
Yeah. So well, you and I talked about it off camera, but the Georgiev got traded, the backup goaltender for the Rangers, got traded to Colorado. What, a third and fifth round pick this year?
Third and the fifth and the third next year. I think that's quite a bit for him.
Well, for a guy that really kind of unproven yet. I mean, he has some stretches where he's played well, but
yeah, well, that and everybody's going, well, they should get a first for him. Pardon, what?
No, he's going to. I don't think anybody was going to give him a first.
I thought Colorado gave up too much. I would never give up that much.
Yeah,
but then they're looking for a goalie. They need a good goalie.
So that Kemper that they had then in Colorado, they say they're going to let him go. Right?
Yeah, what would be really scary is you went there and they won another cup.
I know. Imagine Colorado and the Rangers in the final next year.
Jesus. Oh my God.
Georgiev and Shesterkin as the goalies. Yeah. It's a possibility, right?
Yeah. Be back to I just think that I'm sure Drury will tweak this team just enough.
Yeah.
Not go crazy, but
yeah.
It's like when the last game of the year is over, you never play with the same teammates again. All
of them. Yeah. Susan Letang in Pittsburgh got a 6-year, $36.5 million deal, I think.
It's a long time. At 41, that's a long.
Yeah.
But he's pretty agile. He had a great year, 70-some points in 80 games, whatever.
Yeah. I still think he's a good player, and I'm sure that he's going to be a free agent. So they're thinking, well, we're going to lose him. Somebody else would have signed him for that. So.
Yeah, it's probably 3 years, and then they probably give him. I don't know. That just seems like a lot of contract for a 35-year-old.
Yeah, I agree with you. It is. It totally is. But they know the player well. It seems like he keeps himself in shape and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So, ask Ron if he remembers my cousin Big Richie Krajek, who's in John Ferguson books. He was the Rangers when Ron began at 74.
That's Richie. That's a long time ago. Richie was. That's back in he was around the 70s and the 80s, I think.
This guy says he was with the Rangers in 74 when you came up, but
I don't know if he was there in 74. He might have been though. Didn't he drive equipment or something like that? I'm trying to remember.
Yeah. Draft us tonight too. That's right. Do you watch that?
Oh, I watch. I watch. Listen, I watch girls hockey for Christ's sake, Tom. I love watching hockey. I do. I like when Canada plays the U.S. I love watching it. I think it's not NHL, Junior A, whatever it is. Not. I don't think it's that high of a quality of game, but.
Ron looking good and well rested. You know what? I missed the ball, dropped the ball. I should have said something about that. You are looking good and well rested.
I've been on my diet, Tom, and I don't like it. I'm going to go back on my old. Tonight I'm going to go out and have ribs. No, I'm just joking.
So you're on the diet. So how are you going on? Like a lot of veggies?
I eat a lot of peppers and all that crap.
Nice.
A lot of onions. A lot of. I have hamburger. I had hamburgers last night.
How's your bowel movements with that? Does that lose a lot of fiber?
I'll send you a picture. How's that?
That's fine. Put it up on screen. Ron's poop. I tell you, my mornings are spent. A lot of my mornings are spent sitting on the toilet. I have a lot of fiber in my diet.
Yeah, no, I just watch, try to stay away from stuff that's too bad, really bad. You know.
Yeah. Well, a lot of learning too, right? You just learn the foods. Yeah.
Well, I'm not. I can't die yet because I haven't learned everything I was supposed to.
That's right. Yeah. You got a long time to go. You kidding me? You're gonna live forever.
But anyway, James Caan died.
You mentioned that to me. I heard, and I told you that I love the old movie Brian song that he was in. He played Brian Piccolo.
He was in The Godfather.
Yes, he was.
It was a big one.
Yeah.
But he was also in a series called Vegas.
On
TV. But I met him back in the 80s and
40 years ago.
Amazing guy.
You had that 40 years ago was a busy year for you.
Well, it was let's see how old year would that have been? About 86 probably.
Yeah. You ever seen, and you're right, Thomas brings up a point, that awesome movie, Brian Piccolo. But Brian Saga was. So that was based on a true story. Brian Piccolo was a football player, Chicago Bears.
Right? Chicago.
Got cancer. Yeah, got cancer. You ever have an old movie that you just loved when it first came out and you watched it all the time? Then you go back and watch it like 30 or 40 years later, and it's like, really? It just doesn't have the same.
Well, no, but there's movies I liked from the 70s that were funny as hell. Like,
I mean, when you go back, when you thought they were really good at that time, but then you go back and watch them 40 years later.
They're not quality wise, they're not as good. But there was a movie called Young Frankenstein, and Peter Boyle was in it. He was the monster.
Yeah, big forehead. He's got a bigger forehead than I do.
Fire good.
What's that?
Fire good. That's why I met Peter. He was at Ornan and Rescues, and I was under the influence of alcohol. And Kenny Resky introduced me to him, so I go up and he puts his hand out. I go, fire good.
His forehead was bigger than mine.
He never had a forehead.
He had a 12 head.
Yeah, he was all the way. Yeah,
like he puts mine.
He was in Everybody Loves Raymond. He was the father of that.
Was that Peter Boyle? Was that the father?
Yeah,
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
I love that show.
It's funny. It's funny.
Yeah. Did you like that show better than 2.5 Men, or what's better, 2.5 Men, or?
I like them both because I watch a lot of them, so I keep watching them. I've probably seen every show.
Yeah, I've seen multiple, at least 2 or 3 times of all the shows, especially 2.5 Men.
This is how stupid I am. I already know what's going to happen. I still watch it. And the other movie I like is what's his name, Denzel Washington. It's like he's in a movie. It's called like The Equalizer or something.
Oh, good. There's a couple of them. Oh, love that movie. The first one's the best one. Oh.
Which is the first one? Is that the one with the little girl's a prostitute?
No, that was the second one, I believe.
That was the second one.
Yes. Or am I right on that?
I don't know, but I love those movies. Like he's just so good, Denzel Washington.
Yeah, he was. No, it must have been the second one, because the first one, he was working at the Home Depot kind of store.
Yeah, that's when I watched.
That's a good one too. Yeah.
But,
I like when he fights too. Like he goes in to have the battle against the Russians. There, it's like he times it all, knows how long it's going to take to kill them all.
I like when he brings the hammer back.
Oh, yes, he wipes it off. That is good. That is good. I do. He's a great actor. I like him a lot in a lot of movies.
Yeah. He was.
He did a movie. You ever seen? Was it Airplane or no? Where he was the pilot and he was a drunk. And
when the plane went upside down.
Yes, he saved everybody, or saved a lot of people because of his actions of flying it upside down. But he was still drunk and everything.
Yeah,
that's a good movie. I like that.
Yeah, no, I remember that was a good movie. There was a lot of good movies.
Yeah. What would be your favorite movie, Ron, of all time? Could you have one?
Probably Godfather movies. I love them.
Oh.
And I like. I don't know. I like just so many of them. I like. There was lots of them. Like I like the Die Hard movies. The first couple I liked them.
Yeah.
The first one was great.
Yeah, I was a big John Wayne fan, obviously, so I love John Wayne movies.
Well, I love John Wayne.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder if he could really ride a horse, though. I don't know.
Well, apparently, I love these movies too. But apparently, he always gave him a small horse to make him look bigger.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure he's not the only actor that's ever done that.
Yeah.
Well, the other, speaking of westerns, Denzel was in the western where he went into a town that was getting attacked by some. It's a recent movie too.
Oh no, I saw that one. I saw
Magnificent Seven. Magnificent Seven.
Yeah. It was just on. That was just on.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
That's why we're in this hat. 7. See 7.
That's right.
Or it could be Syracuse, but
yeah.
It could be Save Me, or it could be something like that. And anyway, I can't believe that Mel.
I know. It's like, do we do anything about it? Like, is it one of those things that we've created a monster?
No. We all love Mel, but that's the only reason I came on today, because Mel isn't there.
That's what it's turned into, right? It's like we can't have too many people on the show when Mel's on the show.
Yeah,
because it has to be about Mel all the time, right?
So that's what. Yeah, what was that thing all about, Bob? You remember that movie or something like that?
Sure. Yeah.
It's all about Mel. All about Mel.
That's right.
All
about Mel. That's right. James Caan was in a movie with where's it here? James Caan with El Dorado with John Wayne, and he had the fancy hat and didn't wear a gun at first.
Yeah,
he fought with a knife. That's right. Good job by you, Pete Carey.
Wow. It was amazing, though.
I'm going to get Barry. Now, we love Barry Shelley. Okay. So we love him. So I'm going to give him a hard time here. Yeah. Just you're talking about that for a while here, Barry. Beatles broke up too.
And then that word, what's that? Just that.
Juice it.
Just that.
It's just that.
Just that. That's a new. I like that one.
Just that.
Barry. Okay.
We love Barry, so we just oh god. Oh, Mississippi was his name in the that's right. Peter Carey. Mississippi was James Caan's character's name. Mississippi, good job by you, man.
He wasn't very tall.
No, he's a small man.
Yeah.
And
He
did
was
he have,
from the Bronx.
was he from the Bronx? Oh,
Yeah, born in the Bronx.
Yeah.
82 years old. Imagine that.
everybody dies around 82, 83 years old.
I'm that's my goal.
But seriously, that's you see a lot of people dying now. Like my father died at 83. Like it's like everybody's like around that 82, 83 number.
Yeah. Yeah, I want 10 more years at least. I'll be 77. So I can sneak another 5 in.
Right. You're gonna live forever. You just after all put it this way. Look at what you've done to yourself all these years and you're still living now. They can't kill you.
I mean, technically, yeah, I should be gone.
Well, yeah, that's what I mean. If you look at it the positive way, you have.
When the doctor says to you, I can't believe that you're still alive with a heart that you had.
Who said that? Your sister?
Doctor.
Oh, the doctor said.
I go like, okay, doc, like, where should I be?
See, but that's the good thing about it. It shows that you are invincible. That you just that you've done with the things you've done to yourself, and you survived that, and you say to yourself, "Wow, I can survive anything."
Listen, the way I lived, I should have made 50.
I know that's it. Do you think back right to like when we were playing and we were like 25, 30 years old, think to yourselves that we're going to be now 64 and 67 years old?
Yeah.
I know. It's funny. Yeah.
Anyway.
All right, Ron, good to see you. So then maybe we'll talk off. We don't want to talk too much about Larry Melnick behind his back, but it is something we do need.
Well, you know what we'll do? Like it's Mel, right? So now we'll just call him Lem. That way we won't know we're talking about him.
That's right. Or we'll get Barry to spell his name for him.
That's Lem.
ML.
Okay.
It's a good thing we're perfect.
Everything's. Oh, we are.
Yeah.
No.
All right.
If you don't ask me. If you don't think I'm perfect, just ask me.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'll see you next week.
You got it. Bye.
Everybody.